Hello my friends, my name is Daniela for all those who don't know that, and I want to just share short devotions and to just bring some encouragement in this time of crisis, but also to challenge you maybe and to ultimately bring you closer to the Lord and bring you hope and bring you joy in these potentially really dark times. And today I want to speak with you about a passage in Acts. I am at the moment reading through Acts in my daily devotions, and I just want to share with you something that I found just today that just jumped out at me, and I think it's a call to us Christians, and it's encouraging in a sense as well. So if you would like to read with me in chapter 18 of Acts, and we're going to read verses 18 to 23. The heading there is Paul returns to Antioch. After this, Paul stayed many days longer and then took leave of the brothers and set sail for Syria, and with him Priscilla and Aquila. At Cenchreae he cut his hair, for he was under a vow. And they came to Ephesus, and he left them there, but he himself went into the synagogue and reasoned with the Jews. When they asked him to stay for a longer period, he declined. But on taking leave of them, he said, "I will return to you if God wills." And he set sail from Ephesus. When he had landed at Caesarea, he went up and greeted the church, and then went down to Antioch. After spending some time there, he departed and went from one place to the next, through the region of Galatia and Phrygia, strengthening all the disciples. So first of all, for all who do not know, I'll just give you some background information. So Paul has been on some missionary journeys, some missionary trips previous to this part here, and he has founded some churches through evangelizing and people coming to Christ. So there are churches, let's call them baby churches, and he planted those churches, he taught them, he stayed sometimes for a while, and he often moved on to the next place relatively quick, potentially leaving someone behind to continue the preaching and the teaching, because he usually did not travel alone. While he was away, he, especially later in his prison years, he would send letters to the churches to keep the connection and to keep teaching and to encourage and answer questions and queries they had. And now we see him returning to churches that he planted, to check up on them, to teach them further, and to, if it hadn't been done yet, to establish an order in terms of elders and deacons and stuff like that, if that didn't happen previously. But what I want to draw our attention to is in verse 23, one of the last words of the whole verse, really. So it says he spent some time there, he departed, went from one place to the next through the region of Galatia and Phrygia, strengthening all the disciples. And I want to focus on this strengthening aspect. So let's just ask the question, what does strengthening includes? I mean, we know when it comes to sports, strengthening means resistance training, endurance training to strengthen our body. But what does it mean here? Because he wasn't a personal trainer, he was, let's say, a personal trainer of the soul, if you will. So what does it actually mean? Now, to find out what that word actually means, we have to go back to the original language. And the word they used is, I'm not going to say that, I'm not going to even attempt to say that word because I'm probably going to make a fool of myself, but I'll tell you what the word means. So in the original text, the word means to support further, to re-establish, to confirm, or to firm up. It is in an active voice. The words in the original language, they had a lot more information to them than the words that the English language have. And that means that Paul was intentional about it. He didn't just teach by chance or when someone asked, but he was intentionally and proactively teaching and encouraging the people. And the word strengthening is in the original text kind of a few parts of words like put together, so there is a whole depth of sense to it that we don't get in our language or in English. And some of the stuff that strengthening includes is to give advice, to give counsel, to consult, to guide, to give purpose, to plan, to prepare, to make ready, to stabilize, to ensure, to secure, to direct in a morally sense or spiritually sense. The whole thing is approached in a humble attitude. It's kind of coming down to a level where people are and encouraging and strengthening them there, sharpen their conscience, to stand upright. So even though you come down on a level where people are, you don't bend to potentially sinful habits they have, but you stand upright, you do make a difference, you are salt and light. You support, you sustain, you refresh and revive through the word, and you just display a trust in God, and people can learn from you by example. So this is like the whole depth and width and what that word actually means. So it's basically shepherding. It's basically shepherding, and that whole spectrum, it would bring joy. It does bring joy if someone counsels, if someone cares for you, if someone directs you. It brings you joy, and joy is giving us strength, and so he strengthens the church, and we see that is what Jesus does and what the Holy Spirit does nowadays in our hearts. But obviously we're always striving to become like Christ, or Paul is a good example to follow too. So leaders, which obviously is spiritual leaders in the church, but also husbands, parents, or small group leaders, whatever kind of leader, we have that task as well. We have to do that too. And in fact, every Christian has the task to do that, because we are called to encourage one another, to build one another up. So there is a challenge for us, and especially in these hard times, it's especially crucial that we do that, that we encourage one another, comfort one another, that we are there for one another, counsel one another, and practically help one another. And then another important point here is it says strengthening all the disciples. All, that is an inclusive term. It is so easy to overlook those who are introvert, those who are shy, those who are small, who are not in like the main crowd, and have an eye especially on them. Don't neglect anyone. Be inclusive, be welcoming, and see everyone. So that's, I think, very important, because a shepherd, he cares for each single sheep, and we see in the Bible, in the parable of the lost sheep, that every sheep counts, because the shepherd left his whole flock behind to go after one single sheep. And that sheep might have wandered off and gotten itself into trouble by itself. So the shepherd could have said, it's your own fault, but he didn't. So go after people and watch out for one another, especially within the Christian circles first, but also reach out to those who do not have that hope, because that's the way we can be salt and light, to reach out to people and to be there for one another. So I hope this is encouraging and comforting in a way, and brings us some challenge, and hopefully see you again.